The Backrooms Files is a fictional archive documenting no-clipping events, missing persons, classified investigations, and recovered evidence connected to the backrooms. The series covers entry zones, backrooms levels, entities, survivor accounts, expeditions, recovered artifacts, and the formation of async as it investigates, explores, and attempts to understand the endless labyrinth beyond reality. Robert Sloane, serving as the senior evening librarian at a storied municipal library, stumbled into a peculiar situation while reshelving returned books one evening, when he noticed a reference volume lying beneath shelf C19 before it inexplicably slid through a narrow doorway leading to the restricted archive, an area he had believed was finite based on the library's documented plans. Yet, as he stepped into the archive, he quickly realized that the supposed 6 compact shelving rows terminated at a concrete records room were an illusion, for the shelves continued far beyond any reasonable expectation, creating an environment where aisles appeared identical and where the air was marked by an unnatural stillness, punctuated only by the faint scent of old paper mingling with damp carpet, leading him to frantically radio maintenance as he expressed confusion over having passed history 3 times without encountering an exit. As panic began to set in, Sloane's radio transmissions detailed increasingly bizarre and impossible conditions within the archive, where every bookshelf contained the same catalog numbers repeated endlessly and where books bearing different titles inexplicably shared identical call numbers, further confounding his attempts to navigate through an environment where entire shelves duplicated themselves, complete with worn corners and dust patterns, leading him to a 4-way intersection that revealed every direction containing the same identical aisle. In a desperate attempt to mark his path, he used a grease pencil on one shelf before turning left, only to discover the unsettling reality of finding the same marks surrounding him 7 minutes later, illustrating how the environment no longer obeyed any physical layout that he had come to understand. As the disorientation deepened, audio logs captured unnerving sounds of pages turning despite the lack of any air movement in the archive. And as he reported strange occurrences, Sloane described books periodically falling somewhere beyond his line of sight, yet each investigation into the noise led him only to another indistinguishable aisle. Isolation intensified further as he reported seeing a figure at the far end of an aisle, its presence merely a fleeting glimpse that vanished whenever he approached, as if the very architecture of the library conspired against him by creating barriers to keep the distance constant, while the relentless fluorescent hum enveloped him, drowning out every other sound until, at last, the archive fully transitioned into a backrooms recursive library zone where concrete walls faded away completely, replaced by endless beige partitions and impossible rows of shelves stretching beyond visibility. With each passing moment, Sloane's situation grew increasingly dire as he transmitted his final message, maintaining a calm facade yet laced with a palpable strain, declaring, "I'm not in the library anymore. The shelves keep growing. I don't think there are walls outside this place." A chilling admission that signified his awareness of being ensnared within an environment where the very laws of physics unraveled, leaving behind only a disorienting labyrinth of replicated aisles and unreachable realities. Moments later, the signal dissipated into continuous fluorescent interference, prompting search teams to enter the archive less than 4 minutes after his last transmission, only to discover the restricted room remained exactly as designed, featuring 6 shelving rows and intact concrete walls, with no trace of Robert Sloane's presence, causing a puzzling mystery where librarians later reported finding a single misplaced checkout card bearing Sloane's handwriting among books that had never left the building, further compounding the bizarre occurrence with tales of distant carts rolling through locked archive aisles in the depths of night. In the months that followed Robert Sloane's inexplicable vanishing, whispers among the library staff grew as they frequently discovered that same solitary checkout card inscribed with Sloane's handwriting tucked away in books which had never been checked out, making the incident all the more eerie. Overnight staff recounted experiences filled with dread, describing how they could hear the sounds of distant carts rolling through the archive aisles long after the basement had been securely locked, casting a long shadow over the municipal library that transformed this once cherished space into an active site characterized by intermittent anomalous activity, ultimately leading to its classification as a knowledge recursion zone, a backrooms variant wherein information, architecture, and navigation duplicate infinitely, creating a disjointed infinite library separated from the threads of reality, leaving behind the haunting question of what truly lies beyond the confines of those endless shelves. As the tale of Robert Sloane settled like dust over the library, patrons began to approach the once vibrant space with trepidation, their footsteps echoing cautiously against the polished floors. a stark contrast to the whispers exchanged among staff who recounted eerie stories surrounding the enigmatic archive. The lingering question of Sloane's fate cast a long shadow over the community, prompting local historians and curious visitors to gather in hushed tones, eager to learn from an elderly librarian whose furrowed brow and tremulous voice spoke volumes of her concern as she recounted how the very essence of the library seemed to change after that fateful night, forever marking it as a place filled not only with knowledge but with an unsettling mystery that refused to fade, leaving those who entered to ponder whether they were still part of the world they knew or if they had unwittingly crossed into a realm beyond comprehension.